ICANN's, I know, that's hard, isn't it? ICANN's key success points. Are there any?
I think there are a lot. As I was saying, having the ability to bring people together to discuss very thorny issues, I think that's a key success. Because, I mean, there are not many places in the world where you can have people with so confronted interests sat at the table and remain civil sometimes, sometimes maybe not, but most of the time, and actually try to or achieve consensus or solutions to a given problem or a given situation. So I think that's a key success. Another key success, because I mean, I could say, I mean,
we only have 2 minutes. Time is, let's find out. Let's find out what Evan thinks.
Okay, let's
find out.
ICANN has grown and serves an industry of domain sellers, buyers, resellers, service providers, auctioneers, speculators, lawyers, and consultants very, very well. ICANN has enabled this industry to actually extract value from the internet rather than add value. Think of it. Internet content providers feel themselves forced to buy domains they don't need to protect their trademarks, or to buy from speculators who have the gall to claim that it's innovation because they registered a word before you did. And even once you have it, a domain you supposedly own can be fully taken away from you if you don't pay the annual dues. So you really own it. ICANN has succeeded very well for this industry as it successfully fended off the rest of us. ICANN's also succeeded at fooling the world that its governance model is really inclusive. What ICANN's version of multi-stakeholder really means is that so long as you declare your conflict of interest, you're allowed to push for that interest just as hard as you can afford. Participation by community volunteers who have no vested interest is limited to those that can put in the massive amounts of time and learning required just to keep pace with it all. When's the last time that ICANN enabled at large to do a survey so it could actually know what the global end users really want from the DNS? And yeah, that's never happened. And yet, there's this ongoing illusion that everyone can get involved. ICANN's third success, and its most positive one, is its technical functions. The unsexy, unmonetized bits that stay out of sight of the conflicted. The servers and the protocols and the security of it all. ICANN really does its tech stuff extremely well, precisely because it's uninteresting to the usual power players.
Well, there you go. So there's some steam coming from the center.
Well, that's because of the heating in the room.
Is it the heat? I don't know. Avri, what do you think?
I think he's an angry young man, but
I'm sure.
I guess I don't agree with it. I think there have been successes. I think Leon actually did touch on one. I think there's a lot that is done that the money brokers, the power brokers, would prefer to see otherwise. I do think he is right in terms of the amount of time that it takes volunteers to put in. I know when I was still a volunteer, I guess I don't count as a volunteer anymore, but when I was still a volunteer, I used to think of being, and I was somewhere between a technical one and a civil society one, I used to think of it as kind of like being a member of a volunteer fire department, where it's a second avocation, and while it might not be life and death like they have, it's that similar kind of commitment. It's kind of like a life commitment that I made, that yes, I would work full-time in addition to my full-time job because that's what was interesting, that's what was needed. So yes, he definitely is right that if you walk in with money, it is easier to operate. I don't remember a request to do the survey. I do remember lots of requests. In fact, I think I remember making them when I was an active participant in at-large, of us indeed talking to all the people in the ALSs that were members of at-large. It's like,
At-large structures, ALS.
yeah, sorry. You know, here's what we're doing. What do you think? And it was resisted by the members of at-large at the time as not being a practical way to go about things. So, you know, to then stand up and say no one has ever funded it, when was the request made? When was the plan drawn up? Where is that plan? And so I think that if that is what at-large wanted, if out of the next Atlas came out some plan, the Atlas is the at-large summit of all summits or something?
Summit.
Summit.
Ask Vaughan to investigate about that.
Okay, okay. But anyhow, it is a summit. So, you know, then that would be the kind of thing. Again, yes, if you've got lots of money, it is you to work on it. But we also make an assumption, and I've seen that it's true, that just because somebody works for a company and gets paid for it, whether it's a university, and I know I'm going over my time, whether it's a university or whether it's a company, they're putting in far more time than their company's paying them for. They're not hired to just do ICANN. They've got a whole job. So we're constantly saying, us volunteers, we work hard and nobody pays us, though bunches of us do get paid, versus they get paid and it's different. It's less different than it looks. So.
But you're only seeing positive stuff here. What about ICANN's weaknesses?
What about ICANN's weaknesses?
Yeah, what
having people like me on the board.
Like you on the board. Sorry?
Your question was about successes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm moving on to the next one now. Because someone has just given me a timer which goes like, you are running out of time. Well, it doesn't say that, but it goes towards that discussion. So the question is now, what about ICANN's weaknesses?
And who's first?
Are you?
Me?
You're on a roll.
Me, I'm on a roll. What are our...
Very difficult.
What was the word?
Weaknesses.
Weaknesses. Okay.
How
so
does
firstly,
ICANN fail?
all of it. Okay. Weaknesses and failures are different. What is our weakness? Our weakness, I think, is that we don't have a consistent understanding of our multi-stakeholder process. I think too many people come into it. We even have schools that try to teach what a multi-stakeholder process is, but we don't teach it consistently. I think that we haven't quite worked out good enough methods for, one, understanding how to find the public interest, how to anchor our public interest discussions in our fundamental documents, and then how to discuss these things in a rational, balanced, give and take manner. So those, I would say that if our weaknesses are in that the multi-stakeholder model that we've got, which is wonderful, and I'm true, I stay at ICANN largely because I believe in the development of that model, has a long way to go to get better.
Shall we watch 7, and then we'll go over to Leon afterwards. You'll have the fun part of
You have the last one.
thinking a little more about this.
On weaknesses.
Oh,
Yeah, so we'll watch Evan.
Let's see Evan.
Can't wait to see what he thinks is the weakness. Money.
You only gave me 2 minutes for this. Central structural flaw from which almost all of ICANN's weaknesses come. ICANN was born during the Wild West of the Internet, where free enterprise ran amok and regulation was taboo. For what should have been public infrastructure, like roads or air travel safety or postal unions, instead emerged as privately owned, unregulated commodity. As a result of this, conventional global concepts of property, regulation, or treaties were ignored under the name of, we can do what we want. ICANN flings its meetings around the world in a way that only the financially motivated and the subsidized are able to attend with regularity. So it's no surprise that ICANN has evolved such that its board is literally compelled to do what the industry through the GNSO tells it to do. Almost all of ICANN's problems can be traced to the greed and entitlement that this history has created. When public voting for the ICANN board promised messy results that might be industry hostile, the answer was, get rid of the direct voting and replace it with an ALAC that has over the years been treated as a whiny charity case. ICANN did that because they could. They have so little public oversight. If anything, the level of that external oversight has actually decreased. The term empowered community sounds like Orwellian doublespeak because, in fact, it really is. I could take the entirety of this session to describe how ICANN's decisions have made your internet experience more difficult, more abused, and more expensive than need be, both for consumers and suppliers of internet-based services. The success of things like QR codes or search engines are directly linked to ICANN's failure to serve the public and gain its trust. But all these failings, policy and implementation and leadership, stem from this fundamentally flawed design at the heart of ICANN. Its inmates truly do run the asylum.
Leon?
Well, I actually happen to think that what Evan describes as a weakness is the actual strength within ICANN. As I said, its multi-stakeholder model and the way it is organized and formed. I actually think it's one of the strengths that has kept ICANN going and alive. On the other hand, as weaknesses, I see yes, the barriers for participation, the lack of diversity. I mean, we are all here. We are going to attend the ICANN meeting, and we might feel that we are embodying diversity by being here and bringing people from underserved regions, developing countries, developed countries as well, etc., etc. But the truth is that we are a very small group of people taking care of things. And I'm also aware that maybe not everyone is interested in what we do. But we should, however, strive to become a more diverse organization, a more diverse community with more incentives and more support for participation. And it surprises me that Evan says that only those who attend face-to-face meetings are successful in participating, when he also advocates to have all meetings being virtual and joined remotely. So that is kind of a conflicting message for me from Evan. But yes, he's right in that there are still barriers for participation. I think that these barriers and the lack of diversity are, for me at least, the most important weaknesses that I can see. And the last one is that ICANN seems to me to be very fragile. And it is only as strong as its community can be. If its community is not strong enough and doesn't resist the different threats that come from different places, then ICANN will not survive. If we hold together and we stay strong and we work together, even with our different and sometimes conflicting interests between the different parties that form ICANN, then we will stand up to the challenge and we will survive.
I think you're touching on ICANN's future. And
Exactly.
Actually, the next question, let's listen to Evan. We'll have Avri and go over the floor because we're a bit pressed for time. So let's go over to Evan on ICANN's future.
ICANN excels at creating structural network projects to serve as distractions and black holes for community time. Transparency reviews, ALAC reviews. I think the latest iteration of such resource wastage is yet one more review of multi-stakeholders. All of this reliably churns thousands of person hours of volunteer time, but away from the work that really needs to be done. The bottom line, as I've described, is that ICANN is by design captured by its vested interests and is incapable of being fixed by merely minor tweaks. ICANN has long operated on trust and goodwill, but without any international treaty behind it. But that free pass is expiring. Look around you. The breakup of internet companies is an election issue in the US. The EU is going the route of fines and sanctions, and some countries are just walling themselves off completely. The wild west of the internet is in for a reckoning due to the arrogance and entitlement of many of its companies, and ICANN will most certainly get caught up in the backlash. What this means is that ICANN is ripe for disruption. The only question is when and by whom. When ICANN was given the chance to improve upon its oversight after the US government cut ties, all it did was consolidate the power of its existing self-interested insiders. So what will happen? The International Telecom Union is poised to replace ICANN with a multilateral model, which to some is seen as a cure worse than the disease. But at least it, unlike ICANN, would be operating under an international treaty and wouldn't need things like a universal acceptance initiative. I ultimately answer this question with a call to action. To the Internet Governance Forum, to ISOC, and especially you who are participating here in NASIC. We need to come together and design something that can serve as a treaty-bound regulator with the global public interest at the core. Something better than ICANN's industry capture and better than the ITU's state capture. We can figure this out together. Please, let's do it. We need to.
Avri, are you going to volunteer?
Sure. Although it's really hard to know how to answer such an amazing piece of polemic in just a few minutes. I saw you got the sign for 10 minutes left about 8 minutes ago. So I think he's so completely wrong that it would take quite a bit of work. Yes, we did start from a place of an industry-controlled thing. We're evolving the multi-stakeholder. It has been evolving for years. He's missing that point. He's missing the point of our responsibility for changing the way it works. And I think he's wrong. I think that as I look at the work that the new accountability, the ATRT, the Accountability, Transparency, and Review Team 3 is doing, it is looking at major pieces of remodeling of various things. Because yes, we all realize we have too many reviews. I think that there's a lot to look at in terms of how do we scale. We keep saying we want to get bigger, which is really cool. And I agree, but how do we scale to bigger? It's something we don't quite understand yet. So I actually agree in the respect of, yes, there's a whole lot for all of us to do. And there's a whole lot of problems to be solved. To think that the ITU is going to eat our lunch, we've been hearing that for over 20 years, that if you just do this, then you'll be safe from the ITU. If you just do that, and that, I believe, just doesn't fly. So, as I say, I could go on at length on the things I think were wrong in that statement.
Now, conflicting information, because there's 10 minutes over there about 5 minutes ago, and then there's 12 minutes left on this block over there. So which one is right?
2:20.
You got 13 minutes, it seems.
13 minutes, perfect. So, around us, there were quite a few people who put their hands up. The first one, the fastest to the trigger was Tijani, then I've got Jonathan, then Pablo, and then Raul.
And Eduardo.
Tijani.
Yes, thank you very much. Even in the first you made 2 points. The first one is said that the public interest is not considered, well considered. The second point is said that before there was government who decides, consulting with the private sector. Now it is the private sector and ICANN who decides, consulting with the other constituencies. I think that we have to consider those 2 points. Because you said, and I hate disagreeing with you, but here I have to disagree.
Okay.
You said that the public interest is defined. It is not defined, and nobody wants to define it. I asked it several times, not to define, have a sharp definition. I asked to have at least guiding lines, so that when we do it case by case, we have something, reference to move on. Nobody wants to go in this direction. For the private sector, you must remember, Avri, and there we were together with the drafting team of the CCWG transition and CCWG accountability. when I initiated a big debate about ICANN with non-profit private sector-led organization. I was against this word, private sector-led, because ICANN shouldn't be led by any of the constituencies. And you were, Avri, the only one who understood what I said, and you found another word. So this is a real point. The last point I wanted to speak about is the multi-stakeholder model. Are we multi-equal stakeholder? No, we are not. This is the main point. I am so happy that in the empowered community we are equal, but everywhere else, and we are not equal. Thank you.
Thank you. Very interesting points. We'll go over to Jonathan Zook as the next person in the list.
Yes, Jonathan Zook from the Innovators Network Foundation, and I'm the donut sponsor for Nessie. But I think it's important to take on some of the concerns that Evan raised without necessarily taking on the pessimism associated with them. And I think that's what Avri was trying to do and they were trying to do. I also think that this gets overquoted all the time about democracy is the worst form of government possible, but better than the alternatives, can also be applied to the multi-stakeholder model. In other words, it's full of flaws, but we haven't really found one that's better. And if multilateralism is what we point to as something that's better, then we need to look at the degree to which multinational corporations have captured government, which is pretty extensive as well, right? I mean, if you look at the regulatory bodies around the world, most of them are populated by ex-executives from the industries that they're intended to regulate. So there's no panacea for that particular problem. And I think, I think unfortunately there's not a panacea inside of ICANN for its problem. I mean, it's unfortunate that the contractor parties have a virtual veto, essentially, over a lot of policy development initiatives.